podcast, Truth Seekers podcast. Buckle up, everyone. We're going to talk aliens, UFOs, ghosts, spiritual and paranormal. From all of the three moons, beyond your wildest dreams. Dead Tony. Nice.
Truth Seeker and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the Truth Seeker podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark Savage!
Streaming live at truthseeker.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark sided stuff!
And now, your host, Truth Seeker.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? I'm your host, Truth Seeker. This is the Truth Seeker podcast. Excited, delighted to be with you guys again. I feel somewhat like a stranger. I've been recording these podcasts, but they've kind of been on the back end simply because I've been struggling with my internet connection. Literally, it's been a battle for about 8 months now. And it's just been getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And so much so that it was kind of hard to put together a podcast and go live because the internet was just in and out constantly. And I never knew when it would happen. But it seemed to always happen during the podcast. But now that's fixed. We're alive. I'm excited to be with you guys. And, man, looking forward to this conversation. Looking forward to hanging out in the chat. Everybody already joining us live on all the different streaming platforms, man. Thanks for showing up and showing out, guys. You guys are awesome. Couldn't do this without you. I want to say a huge thank you again, man, to everybody who is supporting my work via Patreon. Couldn't do this without you. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. You guys are the enablers, and you guys are co-creators in making this possible. So shout out to some of the latest patrons we have, which is Paula Fields. Shout out to you, Paula, and Jim Wright. Shout out to you guys, man. Thank you so much for believing in the work and partnering with me to bring this thing forward. Man, just a quick announcements really quick. This Saturday, we're doing our first conference that we're putting on here in Mobile, which is the Christ Consciousness Conference, Mobile, Alabama. Myself, Gothic Mystic, a.k.a. Joshua Fluman, and my buddy Justin Caldwell will be there playing prophetically the piano and doing teachings and healing. And we're going to be talking about sacred geometry, vibration, music, color healing, sound healing. It's going to be fun. So if you can make it, make sure you check out the tickets at truthseeker.com or christ-consciousness.com. Tickets are available. If you can't make it in person, there are options for the live stream. So make sure you guys check that out. Let's see, other updates. I'm almost done with my book. Putting together a book is a lot of work. Like, I literally spent all of last week, or didn't go live at all, didn't do a podcast. I spent the whole week working on the book, and man, it's very strenuous and draining of getting all this content out. And it's it's a lot of work, but I'm almost done with it. I'm wrapping everything up. Proofread it yesterday, just kind of going back over it, seeing if I can add some stuff to some of these subjects and making sure I didn't leave anything out. But awesome news, man. I just heard back from Jordan Maxwell, and he agreed to write the foreword for my book. So Jordan Maxwell will be writing the foreword and giving his endorsement and expertise in a couple paragraphs when it comes to dealing with the spirit world and how they interact with us. So I'm super excited that off the back I got the support from Jordan, and talking to some publishers right now. Don't know if I'm gonna get a publisher or if it's gonna be self-published, but when I roll it out, I will be doing a pre-order, probably doing some autograph copies and things like that. So make sure you stay tuned. The title of the book is Spirit Realm: Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Super excited. I've been working hard on that for at least a year now. So that'll be coming out really soon. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this podcast. I'm excited again to be with you guys live. The subject matter of today it came across my desk probably 2 months ago, if not longer. We've had this booked, and shout out to Matthew, who sent this guest to me, who heard some interviews with him and thought he would be a great guest on the show. The subject matter, I think I tend to kind of shy away from, simply because all of the evil in the world, right? I don't like to acknowledge it. I know it's there. We talk about it. We have our awakening, and then we try to do our work to counteract or like balance out the negativity that's out there. So I don't like to focus on the negative aspect, the fear and things like that a lot. I like to bring light, love, healing, high vibrational frequencies and things like that. But again, if that's all that we focused on, then we're still denying people a piece of the puzzle. And that's what this show is based on, is everybody taking their piece of the puzzle, bringing it to the table, and seeing if it makes a picture. So today's story, we're going to get kind of deep. There's some really interesting things in there about the government. Today is September the 10th. We're going to talk about 9/11, some of that stuff, awakening to the government, who's really behind it, secret stuff that's going on. I'm welcoming today's guest, Torrey Grossman. Torrey, welcome to the Truth Seeker Podcast, brother. How are you?
How's it going? I'm doing pretty good, Derek. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, definitely, man. Hope that wasn't too bad of an introduction, man, just to kind of let people know that we're going to get kind of deep, man. Like, your story is very interesting. I deal with a lot of light workers and things like that, but in order to appreciate the light, I think you have to go through the darkness, right? You have to have a story to tell, and something that allows you to see the contrast of what is good, what is evil, and what this whole experience is about. And I think your story embodies that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of good people in doing what people would consider like bad jobs, you know, and like that was me a little while ago. I'm not proud of the stuff I was doing overseas. I was an Army Ranger. I don't know if I can't remember if you said that, but I joined the military after high school, and I went straight through to the Army Ranger unit, and I've been on 4 deployments, 1 to Iraq and 3 to Afghanistan. I was a rifleman up to team leader, fire team leader. I was a machine gun team leader at a point. I've deployed with SEAL Team 6, like basically like watching the back door with my machine gun as they go in and kill people. And, we were doing night raids, and we were kicking in the door, and like so like I'm come from that like dark world, and there's a lot of good people involved in it that joined for reasons that they believed in at the time, you know. But I think I have to like honor my convictions after the fact, and I need to like admit when I was wrong about something and try to fix the record. And so I'm trying to do that now. I'm also trying to bring a spiritual message too, because it's really dark what's going on like not just like a national scale or anything like that, but just a global scale with 9/11 and everything. Because, I'm sure you're aware of that, but 9/11 was an inside job, and it's like not what they told, I don't know if you remember, how old were you, Derek, when 9/11 happened?
Man, I'm bad at math, but that was in 2001, correct?
Yeah,
a long time ago. I was a young man.
Right? Was it?
Yeah, I was a young man, and yeah, that whole thing. Did you enlist in the Army after that? Because I've talked to a lot of people. Once 9/11 happened, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to war to, protect our country," and they were just gung ho of all these people signing up to go to war, and then they get over there and they go through it and they're hyped up and they get indoctrinated, and then they find out, whether it's through watching documentaries and things like that, like, hold on, I'm in over my head and we're fighting a war that isn't even, like, they've been lying to us about this whole thing. Is that kind of what happened to you when you went over there, or when, like, you know what I'm saying? When did you enlist?
I enlisted right out of high school. So I enlisted when I was 18 back in 2008. I was in 6th grade when 9/11 happened. So I'm 29 right now. I've been out of the military since 2012, December 2012. So right as the world was ending, I was getting out. But I mean, it was just a different environment back then. People forget about the fact that, like, the social environment was supported in my church. It was supported in the school. It was supported on the TV. It was supported in the small group talks that you'd hear of my parents, but not so much my parents, but like that age group. I'd hear my parents' friends and them talking, and it was just a generally accepted thing that 9/11 was carried out by Muslim terrorists, and I thought I was going to be fighting against, like, Al Qaeda and basically like an evil that, like, wanted to attack our country, and that just didn't turn out to be true. But it was hard to see that, like, while I'm in there doing it, because you're just sent through, like, one of the most kind of disassociating processes you could possibly be sent through, to condition you to just, like, follow orders and not ask questions, and everything's compartmentalized. So it's designed so that, like, the brain sends signals and the fist, like, reacts, and, like, I was the fist, I wasn't the brain. I was the one, like, getting bloody and giving somebody else a bloody nose or worse. But, like, you need to step away from that situation, I'd say, to, like, really be honest with yourself. Like, I wasn't able to be really honest with myself about what I was doing, like, when I was in. So it required me, like, stepping away from it all, I'd say. But I had some like bad senses about, like, what was going on that probably caused me not to re-enlist. Because, I mean, like, some of the worst people, like, stuck around and some of the best people got out. And when, like, back, I'd say I joined in 2008. The social atmosphere back then, for people that remember, was totally different than it was post-Obama. Pre-Obama and, like, the end of Bush's term, there was a major anti-war movement that was growing in momentum. And I didn't expect to be, like, that we're still be in the war right now, That'd be absurd. I thought I was going to miss the war. From my, like, young mindset, I was like, okay, this is, like, the war of our generation, and I'm going to miss it because I'm in high school, and there's no way that it's going to be going. But if they would told me, oh, it's going on, it's going to be going on, like, a decade later, I wouldn't have believed it. Like, why, Where's Osama that we can't, like, end this thing,
There's a lot of tricky stuff when it comes to 9/11. There's a lot of different theories, and some of them are good. I mean, there's so much information, and 9/11 for me was one of the things that woke me up. Actually, it was actually watching the documentary Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore. And just to see it, really, that imparted a sense of empathy to me, because it showed us bombing them and running in their houses, shooting people, like, bunch of crazy stuff that the military was doing. It showed it from their perspective. So, like, we have the ability with propaganda, television, they're they want to take our freedom and getting the people to rally behind that. But when you look at it from their position, like, these people, like, what was going on was insane. So, watching 9/11 happen, and then afterwards, and coming out about that and studying it, there's so many different scenarios. What do you think happened with 9/11? Like, what was do you think, I mean, obviously it was a controlled demolition. There were explosives set up all through the building. After the plane hit, these explosives went off and just brought the buildings down in a controlled demolition. There was another tower, Tower 7, which nothing hits and it imploded within itself. This is a time of like terror and disaster, and people believe the report that they made a phone call because there was too much destruction in the air, or the building had received a little damage, and then somebody said, yeah, let's go ahead and pull the building down. Like, what do you, like, just randomly, yeah, let's go ahead and take it down. Like, that is insane that people believe those reports. And then we see all of this video footage, and then maybe there's some CGI. There's a lot of different things going on, but what was it that did it for you? Was it 9/11 that woke you up, like watching those videos, or was it a lot more than that?
Not initially, because I was like falsely leaning. I was leaning on a false support. You know, that's what I was talking about with like the between the church, between the school, between the TV. It just seemed like that was like something that was supported, and that I would be supported coming back, and that like the mission would be like people would try to maintain that thread to understand why we're at war. You know, so that we can, you know, if you go to war, you don't want to lose the initiative halfway through. That could be a life and death scenario for our country. You know, we're the only country that's used nukes, but like we shouldn't be egging the world on to basically say, hey, you guys are on scale of like, you know, major. You know, I don't want to say. It's just like I couldn't help but feel like I was basically like a Nazi. You know, or like, wait, I grew up learning all these things that the Nazis did were all so wrong, right? And like, why is it that like what we're basically doing the same type of stuff? We're using the same sort of mind control on our population, false flag, trauma-based mind control, and then but people when I came back and tried to explain, like, hey, I actually feel like I was closer to maybe like an SS soldier, you know, but. Saying that is going to get some people upset, especially like some of the military people, I think. But I'm okay with that. You know, people can get mad at me. I'll say whatever I want about it because I did it, and I have the right to say that. But you know, we need to like wake up, because the things that are happening in our name don't represent like the good people and the strong values that I think America has to offer to the world, and really has for a long time. So I mean, Israel did 9/11, Derek, and we helped and we were involved in it. But, you know, I think the piece that everybody like, and there's too afraid to say, will get you censored, like could ruin your finances, is obviously right in front of us, you know, Silverstein and who controls the media, who controls Hollywood. I'm not saying like, you can't just blanketly say like, but if you go straight back to the money, you know, and the banking system, and but Israel is really behind the aspect of that people don't see, because I think they've been pushing an agenda in the region for a long time, and they use secrecy as like a means to carry out their agenda. And since they're still working their agenda, like they want to maintain the secrecy. So America can be like made, you know, we can just be made fools. And I think that's what happened.
Your story goes a little bit deeper. You have it gets deep, where like you were talking about after you killed someone in combat and you reported it to the higher ups. They gave you an award for this?
No, they didn't give me an award. I was put in for an award actually, but they ended up not giving me the award, and they gave it to somebody else who, I didn't tell you this. You were talking about this coin that I got a coin from the JSOC Deputy Commanding General, and like the next night or the next 2 nights on base there, I was abducted by a gray alien, and in a dream experience. But like, you know, some of these people the people who've had these experiences, they're very real. So like, it wasn't just like I've had dreams growing up that like, there's like alien invasions and things like this, but nothing like on scale that this happened. This is like, there's a whole community of people that relate to these exact same experiences. Like, I've heard them called experiencers, not abductees or abductees, but it's like the lines get blurred sometimes with all that. So I had this first time, only time I've ever had to kill somebody. And I've had a lot of opportunities to basically that I could have killed somebody and that I had somebody dead to rights. I've had 6 people dead to rights that I didn't pull the trigger on. And, because I didn't have to. And, but this one situation I needed to for my safety of my friends and myself. And, the next couple nights I was having like these kind of crazy dreams. And, then I basically had a dream that was like, it could have been like a real life experience, because it was different than other dreams, and that it was like actually like a day in the life. Like it was like a memory, like it was in, it wasn't like an unfamiliar area. It was like on base, back in Washington State where, our unit was posted. And, I did like a day in the life as like a private in the military because at the time I think I was a corporal, but it seemed like in the dream I was like a private. I was like scrubbing floors. I was in the barracks and stuff, and then walking out of the barracks and a car, getting into a car in the parking lot. I witnessed a UFO fly over, and then I saw a sequence of UFOs fly over. And then one flew right over the parking lot and flew right over our car, and a blue beam hit me. And then I was like in the craft, supposedly. I mean, it's like when the blue beam hit me, it's like I was in my in my body looking up, and the blue beam hit me, and it's like my whole body just dissipated, and I like went to like this, and in that space there's a gray alien and another alien, and it looked like I was inside of a spaceship. And it was, and it was really traumatic, and it lasted maybe like 30 seconds, but it seemed like a long, long time, because if anybody has to like interface with these things, it's like they're really powerful, and it seems like an eternity basically, so I had to experience that. And then I basically shot out of bed, like shot up like this with my arms up, like shaking and moaning and like making this weird noise, which is it's kind of ironic, because I was abducted, but what I was doing overseas was abducting people. I was abducting people. I was like taking people out of their homes in the middle of the night, and black masking them and taking them away from their families, and kind of strange like twist of coincidence or fate, like I like made this noise I'd never heard myself make when I woke up from that dream. I was like, whoa. And it was just like absolute like horror. And then the next week on a mission, some old Afghan elder or something like was trying to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and didn't realize we had a machine gun position set up, because we were SEAL Team 6 was like taking out their neighbor, and the guy didn't realize, and it was like 3 a.m. and he walks with his flashlight. He's looking at the ground, and my squad leader like walks over to grab him, because the guy was so oblivious that we were standing right there that like he could literally walk right up to the guy. So the guy's walking with his flashlight looking at the ground, and he lifts the flashlight up just as he's like, my squad leader's feet basically hit the light. And by the time he lifted it up like this, he made the same noise and did the same sort of reeling, like he like fell backwards and made that same noise, like of just pure fear. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the alien experience was, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's what we talked about before we went live, is the fact that like, you don't have a book out or nothing like that. You're not trying to push an agenda. Like we're not going to have this conversation and you say, well, those were the Andromedans and they are the evil guys. I talk to people all the time who claim to have it figured out. And those who claim to have it figured out, I really don't believe them. And like Jordan Maxwell said, I mentioned him at the beginning, don't believe the person who's bringing you the truth, but always believe the person who is seeking it. The person who is seeking the answers, and they're like diligently looking for the truth behind it and seeing what happens. And so to see like the humility that you're still in, and you're a truth seeker, right? You're trying to figure out what happened. You have a piece of the puzzle. You're bringing it to the table. It allows us to explore it and really get to the bottom of this and see what's going on. You did mention maybe they were like, whatever they were, could have been something that allowed you to feel what you were doing to other people. Like they set up this scenario in the dream space, wherever it was at, if you physically went there or whatever, in the headspace, to say, okay, you need to kind of feel what it's like, what you're doing to people, and allow you, like, in a span of a few moments or whatever, to feel everything that you were doing, your karmic debt, the fierceness, how scary that was. And then you had this encounter. I really believe the more research I'm doing, it's like there are these entities who are like behind the construction of reality, and this is their job. They're whether this is a simulation or what, these entities are able to pop in and out of our reality and interact with mankind. They've been here since the beginning. It's nothing new. I don't think that they're demonic in nature. And I don't think that just because something was negative, you had a negative experience, that it's so-called a demon from hell or from Satan. Like maybe you being able to experience that was your awakening. I gotta stop. I can't keep doing this, right? What happened in your mind, in your life, and your destiny, essentially, after that experience? What happened? Like, did you have a change of heart? Did you say, okay, I'm done?
No, I woke up the next morning and told my whole squad, and like, you guys need to know what just happened to me, because I thought they heard me. Because I woke up like kind of like yelling, basically. I thought I woke everybody else up, but apparently I didn't. So like that was at like 5, the equivalent to 5 a.m. because we were on reverse schedules. So I had to like sleep during the daytime in like a totally blacked out room, air conditioning and stuff for the hot deserts outside. I had no idea. Then by the time the sun goes down, I wake up and we're going on ops. So like I woke up and I'm like, dude, you guys, I just got like abducted by an alien, and tried to explain it to her. And I had to let it go because I was going out on some pretty heavy missions, right? Yeah. But that was the starting point for a frame of reference to understand that to understand that these things actually do exist and they're unexplained, and a lot of people are experiencing them. And there's something to be understood here that I previously didn't think I could even approach, because I'd always stood up and under the stars and looked up and wondered and thought wow, the awe of it all. And I've always wondered and wanted to know if they existed, the others, or what would that look like if I ever had an experience? What would that even be like? And I didn't expect it like that, so I kind of forgot about it I didn't forget about it, but I kind of put it away because I was on deployment with SEAL Team 6 at the time, and they would go on missions, and then our platoon would go out on missions. And when they would go out on missions, I was attached to them as a machine gunner. And then when our platoon would go out on missions, I would go out with them too. So it's like a little bit like going through a washing machine, being in this sort of unit, because your schedule is nonstop and you need to be focused on what you're doing. So I told people immediately to so that I had kind of a psychic anchor to go back later and be my best friend that was in my squad, and be hey man, this is real, because it was traumatic. Yeah. And I knew that I would not forget it. it was that traumatic that it made this reality seem not as real, but
now I kind of with the scenario I showed you, as far as the entities maybe we call gods or angels or whatever the case is, showing up and kind of doing an intervention for you. I mean, we're having this conversation now, because of it. But what about, and have you looked into the MyLab abductions, and which is the military and initiated abductions, where the military either are working with aliens and they're like allowing them to abduct people, because a lot of people who have stories very similar to yours talk about how they're on a table, there's these little men in suits or these little beings in there, but then in the corner there's a man in military garb kind of watching the whole procedure. Have you looked into that at all?
See, I didn't experience like a military person, but I got abducted while I was in the military, off military base.
Yeah.
So, in the dream experience, that, and to me, that was so real when I dreamed it. It wasn't like other dreams. It was totally different in the fact that it just is like standalone. Like it could have actually been a real memory. That's so real. I don't know, especially because you start looking it up and you realize that people are missing time, and then the memories come back to them in dreams. So that could be it. Is the military working with Greys and stuff like that? And we kind of need to really understand more about the spiritual dimensions and the entities that I think that you were talking about earlier, just how they kind of control the simulation in a way, and they may exist in another dimension, but they're very real and always have been maybe a part of our reality as a spiritual force. And in that sense, the military might have be aligned with them in some sense, some sort of evil sense, but I don't know if you actually have consent for that, there's a board of military that says, yeah, we can give our stamp of approval, I don't know if that's even, or it's just you become, you kind of forget yourself and your true purpose, and you're the true, the true light and love of what's around us. And then you subtly align with darker forces, not even really knowing it. That might be more along the lines of how the military is working with Greys, but the idea
you've heard different stories as far as the cattle mutilations and things like that, and people being abducted. I mean, there's some theories where in exchange for technology that the government will allow you to abduct and test so many people. I mean, if you look at it in reality, with this whole abduction scenario, you know what I'm saying, you were abducting people, right? Going in and taking people, and they're doing experiments on these guys. If you look back into definitely the Nazis, but even some of our secret military, they're doing some really demented stuff to people, right? So if we caught an alien, if I caught an alien in my house, he popped into my reality and I trapped him, called the cops, they're going to bring him to the military. They're going to interrogate him. They're going to strap him to the table. They're going to do experiments on him, right? Same thing with us. If there's this other species of aliens out there, or these other beings, and they pick up a human, they're going to want to run tests and make sure we're not toxic. Maybe we're not sick. Or going to kill, we have some type of disease that's going to wipe out their civilization, right? It was kind of like a mirror thing that's being done. The interesting thing is that there's this, we don't know, you know what I'm saying? And so some of the people who know, again, I question them. And with that being said, you mentioned that this could be an aspect of maybe your higher self. That's plausible. I'm sure it's not going to look like you. If you encountered it, maybe it's beyond the Matrix, and it's watching you do this simulation. There's so many different scenarios that can make sense. That's happening. A lot of people, and I'm going to just talk to you about this because you mentioned interdimensionals. There's a big push right now for flat Earth and those theories, and we're in a bubble or a ball or whatever. So when we talk about space and aliens and explorations, the flat earthers are nope, it's not aliens. There's no such thing as aliens. They're interdimensional demons. So I don't know if that's where you're coming from.
At our center point, we're all connected, right? And everything is made in the image of God. So our bodies as well too. So that experience happened for me very much. It was a very much pineal experience, because when the blue beam hit me, it's my whole body dissipated. And that wasn't it was painful. It's like I was like deatomized, and I became like just my third eye in that moment. And then until I like shot out of bed, and then I was back in my body, you know, like, but, yeah, I tend to think that like we, are connected to the entire universe all at once and from our center. And like, that's like kind of like a portal we're so ultimately like we're channels, and your channel can be like, it could be dirty or it can be clean. And, you can kind of bring in more negative entities, or you can bring in like positive, like light and beings and, whatever. I don't want to get into like whether, I guess I don't really go too deep into the like the spiritual, the dimension of angels and all that stuff. I believe in it all, but I don't want to like say exactly like, because I think it's like past lives, you know, it's like, yeah, that there's a reality there, but it's almost superfluous. It's too much information, and sometimes it's worth it for people in specific situations, but they abuse it, and then that causes fractures. And like the true purpose of like, basically, I think that experience for me, like you're kind of getting at it. It's like, well, it's just because you have like a negative experience, it's like doesn't mean that it was really a negative experience. Good things can come of it. We're talking right now. And I helped me change like the way I viewed some of the things that I was involved in, which were really bad. But you know, so like I kind of, you know, I don't see it as like a bad experience, even though it was a very traumatic experience.
Well, I mean, you have to look at it with the same way, because you're talking about the astral realms and third eye and stuff like that. I mean, it can relate back to, it relates back to everything. It's a universal principle, right? Just because it's bad doesn't mean it's evil. You know, I'm obviously working on this book, and that's what the book is about, how all of these good and bad things work together for your good. Like in the end, they work for you, especially when you're, you know, in line or in unison with the will of the Creator, whatever that means to you. You're talking about it made you more conscious, right? It happened to you, but you're not a victim, and it brought about something good. So the same way you would look at a bad hallucinogenic experience, right? Somebody on magic mushrooms or LSD, and you have this terrifying encounter. Like there's so much to take away from what's called a bad trip, and then in the end, in hindsight, the trip wasn't bad. Even if it is, don't do this again. Like even if this is the lesson that I learned, this isn't for me. I learned that lesson. The bad trip, it's not bad. When we look back at, obviously when we're going through it, it is traumatic. We maybe want to kill ourselves or just, you know, exit the situation, whatever we can do. But when we look back at it, it shapes who we are. It shapes us and molds us and makes us. And so a lot of the things that were meant for our harm can in turn be used for our good. And I look back over my life and just see that's spiritual alchemy of creating in you and putting some type of natural empathy in you to talk about this. For one, just to help other people who are going through this, right? And you even tried to talk about it early on, but maybe weren't in the right place. And, you know, people could tell on you, you know, it can get kind of weird, make fun of you, but you're in this place now where like, it can help people. You speaking about it can help a young person who's in the military going through something similar, or waking up to this, man, my pursuit in this thing is a lie, and they don't know what to do. They're freaking out. They're watching videos, but you kind of bring some type of clarity and how to maintain sanity through it, right? How does that come about, of just, you know, maintaining sanity, you know? Spirituality? I mean, is that...
You know, day by day. Like try to maintain positive spiritual practice in my life. I'm not perfect spiritually, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. Trying not to, you know, keep making the same mistakes though. And I use a sauna frequently. I have a balance board that I'll use because I've got my knees are bad, and I hurt my back in the military too, my back and my knees, and I'm 100% service disabled for PTSD. So I live at home and don't have to like do a job. So that's a challenge in and of itself, really. Like that's really not easy. And part of the reason why I'm speaking out about this stuff and like I'm committing to do this is because I do live on disability, and I feel like it's my duty to our society to talk about the war, try to like help bring resolution there, also to talk about the lies that got us into it, because we've all been traumatized by this, the 9/11 and the war and the karma that we are like basically sowing overseas that a lot of people may be insulated to, but I know better. I was doing it, you know, I've seen it, and a lot of people have seen it. And a lot of these people overseas are going to live generations not forgetting about it. And we need to, you know, these are human beings, and we have a lot more in common with these people on the ground than we do with the people that are manipulating us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, humanity like has a lot more to gain from resolving that and getting rid of the people that are like pulling the strings and manipulating us to go do something like that. And that's why, you know, like, I sent it back to the banking thing, 'cause I've spent a lot of time like trying to think about who I was working for and what I was doing. And, you know, you just have to keep expanding outwards and keep saying, I don't know. Like, but what is the evidence pointing towards? And I think, you know, like it kind of comes back to that it's always been right in front of us. It's like we're all connected through a system it's the war and stuff is supporting. And we need to make those connections as far as like what that is, so that we can, so we're not doing something that's going to cause a lot of harm to other people, and also like threaten the security of our future.
Have you, and this is piggybacked off of a comment here. Shout out to Adam Starseed Bay, but he says the greatest riches of the world is people's souls and their energy. Right? Whether they're offerings to other gods, like we've been down that rabbit trail, right? Michael Tessarian's done some work on that and just showing you like these foreign gods that are still being worshipped through what we would call 9/11 would be a massive ritual or a massive sacrifice in these wars, you know, and all of these things. But the question I want to ask you, and I know it's kind of new, but have you seen, and all of the listeners as well, have you seen the new series of The Dark Crystal that just came out on Netflix?
I finished it last night.
You finished it last night?
I stayed up late and finished it, yeah.
I did too. There's so many allegory, and he's talking about souls. They want souls. They want your essence, you know. They can offer it to the gods. I mean, there's so many different parallels in that series, showing these wicked rulers who like have created this realm, and they essentially are like, well, I'm the president of this realm. I have some authority here. They say, no, you're only that because we let you be that, and because it keeps you occupied. You know,
the Skeksis are so disturbing.
Yeah. It's so crazy. There's so many parallels watching that to a lot of different things. And I think definitely the government, maybe even some vegan ties in there, whether the Skeksis were like food and you just didn't care how they felt or what they were going through. You just wanted to consume their life essence. But, you know, if there's a reptilian race or there's some evil overlords, I don't know if you want to go reptilian, but evil.
I'm down to go any of these things. And then we can double back to Flat Earth, too, because I kind of laughed or smiled a little, but I'm willing to talk about it. And
I mean, something's going on. You know, I like to go back to the Bible. The Bible talks about this war, right? This war between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. It literally says a serpent seed that will fight against the children of light, right? Like there's going to be this war, and who are those serpents? Are they on planet? Are they our government? Which I believe, or at least we're working with them if it's not them, right? In a grand scheme of things. But yeah, how would you respond?
Like, though, right? And it's like the serpent, like it's like the Skeksis, right? And what are the Skeksis? Like they're like a reflection of like ourselves, right? And like maybe our like reptilian mind, like.
Well, that's deep because all of the Skeksis, they had a shadow self that was a more you know what I'm saying, in lightened side, or a more of a, you know what I'm saying, humble, and they were part of the earth. They were going to return back to the creator, right? And the Skeksis was like the evil side. I know we're getting off on a tangent, but it's pretty interesting to me. In my talk with Jordan Maxwell last night, he was talking about pretty much how we've heard the Zachariah Sitchin stories about how we've been, you know what I'm saying, genetically modified, and the pre-hominid men were, something happened to our DNA. And we were, they did something to us to make us who we are today, right? And so Jordan was talking about, which is, I mean, I know about the battle of the flesh and the spirit and the good and evil that's within us, but he was talking about how there's two parts of man. You have the reptilian side that just wants to drink, party, kill, rape, torture. That's in every man. But then you have the higher self that's in there as well, the spiritual side that wants to help, that loves poetry, art, to create, to bless, to heal, to help people. And there's just war within man, the good and the bad side, again, kind of relating back to the show The Dark Crystal, showing these two different sides of the one, right? Which is very interesting.
For sure. A good way of looking at that as well is like the chakras. And it goes right back to your body. So to understand the chakras, you have to physically sit and connect and align yourself, and then you can see that in the different colors and what they represent, and how different kind of polarities all come together. So back to from chakras and connecting to your body, and we could go to flat Earth from there. Because I believe that the flat Earth thing, I think it is kind of a psyop. I think it's kind of
it's become one. If it isn't, if it wasn't created to be one, it's definitely one now.
It was kind of created one because it came out of nowhere, right? Yeah. And there's all these videos that would basically, in my mind, were not evidence of anything in and of themselves, and kind of were missing pieces, but we're all pointing towards something, and they're all basically, you had to throw it out completely because they put the conclusion in the title. And it's flat Earth, it's well, flat, it's as opposed to globe. So right there, they got a dichotomy that they're working for. It's well, no, that's not the truth. If you want to get to the truth, the truth is transcendent of dichotomies, and so, but I actually think that technically we're on a spheroid, right? But it's an energetic plane. And if you were ever to leave it, it would be and then you're away from it, then it's a spheroid. But when you're on it, it's spinning in space, and because everything's spinning, it's basically spins to the point where it's flat, energetically. And it's just, we're basically touching the edge of a discrepancy of language, that just as the language itself doesn't approach that reality, because it is a multidimensional reality, because the truth is beyond duality. So it's if you're on the surface of it, I actually think the ancient Vedic way of looking at it probably has a lot more applicable use for technology to understand, maybe the portal system in and out of the earth, or why the poles are important. And there is a lot of mystery surrounding that too. So it gets deeper.
Yeah. Again, it would be, you're open to it. You're not saying that this is what it is and I'm going to show you, right? Which there's a lot of people that kind of, pretty much with anything, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's the vegans or it's the Christians or it's the flat earthers, it's their way or no way. And they want to show you, and they're just so excited about their truth or what they've learned, that they end up really pushing people away that they're trying to help, you know what I'm saying, win over to their philosophy. Which is, having just this crazy zeal that they don't really know. And you see a lot of people doing that. I think I did it with 9/11. You know what I'm saying? I think I did it with a lot of different things. I made sure that I didn't do it with the UFO stuff, as far as random people. Hey, man, you believe in UFOs? Or tell them about what I've experienced and stuff, right? I've kind of, maybe I did it a little bit online just by posting stuff prematurely or whatever, but just being open about the experiences. Because you see a lot of that with flat earthers as well. I have a lot of friends who are getting into it, and that's all they're into now. And then it's into that, or it's the evil government and all of their. I mean, I've got people that's all they're into. But I've been there, like where it just consumes you. Was you ever there? You know, when you first found out about 9/11, was you like
be consumed by it?
Yeah, consumed by it, telling people, running people away, families freaking out. You know.
And I still am, because we haven't resolved it. And it took me 5 years to get my dad to agree that not the World Trade Centers had to be controlled demolition. 5 years. And I'm telling you, I had like and I love my dad. I love my parents. I love my family. And but it was just like, I'd have like an hour-long conversation with him, be like, this is, adamant because I just came back from war. He supported Bush. He believed in the night, and I said, come back from the war. And like and we can get into this as well, but the main reason why I started speaking out is because I was exposed to like the Pat Tillman cover up. So we can go into that in a little bit if you want. If you don't want to touch it because it's YouTube, that's okay. But,
well, I don't know much about it. Fill me in.
This is like, that's why I started speaking out, not the alien thing. Like the alien thing was just like, I wasn't even sure I was going to even tell anybody that, but because I first did an interview with Sean Stone, and that was really like, he was open to all that stuff. So I felt
Who set that up, by the way?
I just messaged him, and he got back to me like the same day. And,
wow.
I didn't know I didn't even know who he was until like 2 months before I did that interview. But I discovered him like, and I realized like, whoa, this is a guy who'll like let me talk and like allow me to like actually share my story. Whereas anybody else he asked good questions, and he was on the same page with a number of the different aspects of it that would allow me to like get out like the full scope of what I was dealing with like the spiritual side of it, the alien side of it, like the economy of war side and stuff like that. But I didn't even think I was gonna speak out about the alien stuff. I just felt like for a couple years I was like really just trying to speak out about Pat Tillman being murdered, and because I was in his unit, and after he was killed, about 4 years after he was killed, I got to the unit and I went directly into his company. So part of like what's really motivated me is just that like I held all these beliefs joining, and then they systematically like kind of just self-destructed on me as I was going through, but especially when I got out. And Pat Tillman was a major one for me, because like I remember what they put over the TV about like him being a hero for storming a machine gun position, and they gave him a big military funeral, and it was all over the TV, and the president came out and talked about it, and but his family wasn't happy with it. And it turns out that like he actually, the story that they gave wasn't true about how he died. And there's still a lot of questions about how he died. And then his family investigated it, hired a private investigator. And it turns out that like none of the original story was true. And the hard facts showed something completely opposite. One of those being that he was found with 3 of our own rounds in his forehead, like in a really close shot group that would need to be within about 10 yards to get that sort of close shot group. And they blamed it on a machine gunner shooting him at 50 yards on accident, but nobody was ever kicked out of the unit. Nobody was ever held accountable. I'm telling you, like, it was all BS. It was all cover up. And he was basically assassinated from what, my opinion, from like expert opinion of like knowing what it takes to zero a weapon and being in the unit and stuff like that. It's like, I wasn't there, but if you just look at the evidence, it's obvious he was assassinated. And I had somebody pull me aside from my leadership and tell me that while I was in. So like, that was one of those things that like, I just kind of buried at the time. And then as soon as I got out, it like came back like full force, and like, I couldn't let it go, because that is something that like other people that I knew all knew about Pat Tillman. but they believed the other story, you know. And I would actually, you know, I'd actually been involved in this stuff to where I was close enough to that I heard what happened to his unit after he died. They split up his platoon and moved people all around. You know, that's abnormal. The mission that he went out on was an abnormal mission. It was a Humvee recovery mission. Everything about it was abnormal. And he'd contacted Noam Chomsky right before that deployment as well. So the signs were there that he was trying to speak out. He was going to speak out, and then they killed him, you know, and he's like an American hero. Definitely a big, like, American icon at the beginning of the war, and was helped use to sell the war. So, like, I felt like that was my original calling, actually, Derek. And the spiritual stuff and the alien stuff is like kind of just like, that's just me completely. As far as what I have to offer.
Seems like for me, I mean, that's the solution of it. There seems like there's this progression, and I've just seen it within my own life. And then before we went live, I mentioned to you a couple of different people who were involved with Anonymous and things like that, and they do the marches, and I mean, they're outside of the Capitol shaking their fist and holding signs, and they go home at the end of the day, right? And there's no resolution, right? They're trying to call for an uprising. A lot of those people, and these are hip-hop artists and a lot of people really, they start there, but then they figure out, look, this marching thing, this rallying, this creating websites, creating videos, like, it helps, like, it's doing something, but to really see the change and find the solution to really help humanity out of this debt that we're in and this place that we're in, is really evolving spiritually and getting enough people to start becoming conscious, to getting enough people to start caring. And it takes government stuff. It takes, hey, look at what your government's doing. It takes documentaries like Fahrenheit 9/11 to really birth something. Alex Jones, as crazy and as far out as he is, he's helped a lot of people just kind of question the narrative and just to see some things that, hold on, maybe these people don't have our best interest in mind. Maybe these people are lying. Maybe they are in it for the money or whatever the case is, right? There's just different scenarios that things like this open up for people. And so that's why, like, your story is important. And where you started, but I do really feel like you know, I think the spiritual part is more important than the negative side, right? It's like, oh, okay, how are we going to bring change? Is it to continue to complain about it and just tell your story? That's your story. It's part of it. This is who you are, right? It's your truth. But moving forward, man, as far as bringing change and undoing maybe the wrong that you've done, or now you're pushing truth in the midst of you were following lies or whatever the case is, it's all about this spiritual progression. So I really do think it's the answer. And those people who I mentioned, those rappers, they're now leaning more towards spirituality. Now they're talking, whether they're vegans, they may not be Christian, they may not be New Age or very spiritual, but maybe they're conscious. Now they're militant vegans. Now they're trying to help. You know what I'm saying? And they've done all the protesting and stuff like that. So I mean, for you, I mean, obviously, like you said, that's what's helping you, and that's what you have to share. Like, that's the solution. Why would you try to give something to somebody that's not working? All you really, your truth is what's working for you and what didn't work. Right? And that's part of your story too. Look, this didn't work. This killing people and signing on with the government and believing these false narratives and things like that, But it's always something that opens the door, right? The Pat Tillman thing, 9/11, right? Obviously, I'm still not preaching 9/11. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's part of my story. I could.
People don't know who did it. And if they did, they'd understand why the Epstein thing. Like, if you put the Epstein timeline in place, blackmail, are you kidding? Mossad and everything. Like,
man,
you pull the blackmail ops there, right there. Like, think about how Clinton was involved in that. If people just put the timeline in place for Epstein, they would see that 9/11 and like the stuff coming afterwards. It's not a coincidence. And so, I mean, like, we're kind of in this unprecedented era of shadow work and like, where past traumas are coming up and we need to address them and stuff. And I think everybody's feeling it. But I'm like an insider, but not like one of those insiders that's been in for 20 years and they're just like over their head in it. Like I did 4.5 years, and I just decided not to re-up. But I was in way more than I like bargained for with that. And, but I was like in enough that I like can speak about this, and I like have insight actually into what was going on. And like, I was really doing the things that I was really an Army Ranger. It wasn't like I was really kicking in doors. I was really doing that. And, you need somebody like that to just like be like, hey, we need to stop this because this is really bad. And people over here don't get it. And it's like what you do to other people is like comes back to bite you and could be done to you. So this whole drone infrastructure, this whole like we own the night, and they come in and take you away and black mask you, like, that's not what I thought I was signing up for. I thought I was going after like Al Qaeda. I found out later that's just kind of that's not even necessarily real. We were just going after people that opposed our occupation, like never ending now. What if that was turned around and like used against American citizens? What if,
that's the big thing, bro, because like that's where the empathy is, like putting yourself in their shoes. Like literally, what would you do if they were about to kick your door in and come and kidnap your wife and daughter? Like, what would you do? Would you, God forbid, strap a bomb and run into a group of 17 of them and sacrifice yourself for the greater good? Like, I have to rationalize it and say, okay, this is what these people are doing. They're looking out their window. Say if not even if it was the Chinese and we had them at every stop sign and they're harassing you. You're just trying to get to work. They're pulling you out the car, shaking you down, checking your pockets, taking stuff from you, abusing you, slapping you around. Like, this is like literally stuff that we were doing and worse, right? Like, what would you do? We have to put ourselves in that mind, in that mind state. Is that what did it for you though? Just the empathy of like kind of, I mean, having the alien encounter or whatever, just being able to feel what you were dishing out, right? I mean, that's where the empathy comes in, huh?
For sure. And just realize, recognizing that like we did it all for a lie, and people coming home, like people would say they'd act like they were sincere and, thank you for your service, and like I had to deal with that a lot. And like, there's only so much somebody can take of people thanking them for what you did while you are on your own, like trying to like grapple with like what understanding, like what it was you were really doing. So like they say, no, thank you, but then you try to talk to them about it and they don't want to hear it. And it's like, wait a second here, what is going on, because then I'm just getting like, I'm not even allowed to like address my own truth surrounding my experiences. Yeah. And
now you didn't sign any waivers or paperwork or anything that says that you can't disclose.
Sure I did. And, but,
is there any fear of backlash or, like you said, target individuals or anything?
I think I'm protected by like just higher spiritual forces, and I don't think I'm saying anything that would hurt people like in operations right now. In fact, I'm like trying to like I'm trying to think of all those things at once. I'm the type of person that like I can't remember exactly what was in the NDA that I signed. I can't remember exactly what was in it, but I understand the spirit of what it all means, and I live to that standard, tried it daily, and I care about my country. I care about operational security. I care about these other people on the other side of the world, and I want to see it all resolved, and I want to see the original oath that I like made upheld, because enemies, foreign and domestic. And the enemies are domestic, and that's when you got to go back to 9/11. You have to look at the, how they prepared for the war on terror. And I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is coming out now. This is just like a sharp right from where we were just talking, but like, I think we got to go back a couple administrations, at least to Bush Sr., if not back to Kennedy, to understand really where our country's at, but Bush Sr. Said, gave the New World Order speech to the UN, I believe, on September 11th, 1991.
Yeah, that was deep, right? Yeah, that's a big one.
I did a radio show with Susan Lindauer. I didn't mention that when you asked me before we started. I mentioned those other two, but if you look me up on like Google or whatever, It's not on YouTube, but I'm on one of Susan Lindauer's shows. And she was one of the first people that was Americans that I think was prosecuted under the Patriot Act. And because she was like a CIA asset in Iraq right before 9/11. And she had all of this knowledge that Iraq was desperately trying to avoid going to war. And she ended up sending a message to Senator McCain's office. And then within like a month, she got round up, put it and locked away on a base for a year without a trial. And then she was held on that base for 5 years. And then, so that's a long time. Like in any other war situation, that might have worked, right? But this war has gone on so long that they let her out. Then she got her own radio show. She's been speaking out about it all along. And like the whole narrative of the Iraq war basically had collapsed at that point, but it didn't matter because we already did it. But she was aware of. I can't remember exactly where I was originally going with this, but like Susan Lindauer was aware of that 9/11, that they had prior knowledge of 9/11, that it was shuttered through the intelligence communities, and that the Iraqis and the other countries were basically desperately trying to like avoid the blame getting put on them because they had no idea about it and they didn't want to go to war and they were trying to avoid it. Yeah, and there's these voices out there that the whistleblowers are all there. People just aren't listening.
Yeah, I've seen some footage back in the day of like a soldier who was like given awards and stuff like that. You may remember this. I don't know his name, but he was in a conference where they gave him awards and he just took all of his stuff off. The Marine, he just took everything off and threw it. He's like, I'm done. You guys, this is not what I signed up for. Like people are waking up. I remember, when around that time, I was having my Alex Jones awakening and the Illuminati and studying Masons, really freaking out, studying FEMA camps and FEMA coffins and conspiracy theories, really getting freaked out. But I thought I was doing the work of the Lord. That became my gospel. My message became to expose the wicked elite. I think I've got some friends there now, but in the midst of that, it started bleeding over into my music, and I put out an EP called The Fall of Babylon. That was I sampled like George Bush speeches and stuff like that, and really talked a lot about the war and the money and Freemasonry and stuff, and really exposing that. I did a concert at this venue, and we're all like anti-NWO and all that kind of stuff. This was back in like 2007, 2008, and there was a dude there from the military, this big old guy, and he's just staring me down. I'm like, oh Lord, and he comes up to me afterwards, this big old guy, military rank and stuff. He's like, hey man, I appreciate your music, man. I appreciate what you're doing. I thought I was gonna have to get beat up. He's like, I appreciate what you're doing, man. I've been watching a lot of videos on 9/11, man, and I appreciate what you're doing. So it shook me, you know what I'm saying, that there was a lot of people who were waking up, even who were in the military. They can't get out of it. Like that was their only option, man. You know what I'm saying? Like they had like by default. And you look at the Michael Moore documentaries and how they go to recruit people from the low income neighborhoods, from the bad school systems where you can't go, you're not going to go to college, you're either going to end up dead or on the street. So, hey, come join us. We'll pay for your college or whatever the case is, right? And they get those people, and a lot of them, they mess them up. I've heard stories about, as they're breaking you down to build you back up, right, with their doctrines and belief systems and stuff like that, people freaking out, like going into shock, like having these grown men, big guys screaming in your face, and dudes just locking up, turning pale, and just going into weird seizures from all of the getting broke down. You know what I'm saying? Like crazy. I can't even imagine what you had to go through, man. You know what I'm saying? And still,
I signed up for it, but I didn't sign up to go fight in a false war. I think there's
it's the part of breaking them down. Like it really showed how they break people down in order. Let's go kill some Muslims. Like, hold on, where does that come from? Like, hold on, like, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's all the propaganda. It's like it just start from them. They had it all designed before even 9/11. The whole like, let's get the Muslims sort of thing. Let's destabilize the Middle East, and that's why we have to talk about Israel. And everybody kind of doesn't want to talk about it. But I'll talk about it because we need to, and it's our right to, and that'll get you censored really quick. But like, oh no way! Oh wait, I thought I lost for a second. I was like, wait,
I'm still here.
Is it still playing?
Yeah, we're still good. I was just trying something.
Yeah. The Muslim thing. I mean, like they got framed, you know, and I know a lot of good Muslim people, and you could see like that the people over there really didn't have many aspirations to come over here and kill us. They were just living, and they were living like as close as you might imagine somebody would live in like a mountainous desert area, like being close to God. Like their spirituality is like basically all they have, you know. So you take like one of my platoon has made international news 3 times while I was in it, and each time was for a different reason. And each time when it made the news, it was beyond recognition from what we knew it was on the ground. So that was an eye opener too. But one of those moments was somebody in our platoon stabbed a Quran on accident, but he was just being stupid in the way that he was searching through things. He was using his knife to open, but these people, they wrapped up their Quran in a cloth. He sliced it open. You should have known better. You should never have done that, but he did, and the people rioted in the following weeks, and there's a number of people that were killed in the riots. And you know, it's like they are willing to do something like that, to riot, and if over disrespecting the Quran. It's like, but the brunt of like, I mean, they take a lot of more than we don't give them enough credit for their level of humility and resiliency and just general dignity considering the circumstances. But if you touch the Quran or if you touch their women, like they won't stand for it.
As they shouldn't.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah. I want to play this short clip, man. You won't be able to see it. I was trying to share my screen with you, but I don't think it'll work both ways. But I'm going to play it, and you'll be able to hear it, though. This was 10 years ago. We used to do a lot of street preaching, right? And a lot of what we did was preach against the New World Order and against false churches and stuff like that. And we was at the downtown district. We'd go out at 10 o'clock at night and we'd stay till 4 in the morning preaching, wearing all white. I was running with some Hebrew Israelites and stuff. But there was an interesting interaction we had, and I caught it on video. The whole video is 11 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing, just a little excerpt, and I'll put the link in the description if anybody wants to watch this. But this guy, I'll try to set it up. He's really drunk, right? He's downtown, and he walks up to us preaching, and you know, he's really drunk, and he's asked what we're doing. Then randomly he says, "How many of you guys have ever killed anybody?" And he's talking to me and all my young brothers, and he's like, you know, nobody. He was like, "Well, I've killed people, man. I was in Iraq, and I was fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I thought I was fighting for the Lord. I thought I was fighting a holy war." You know, and he's like just kind of spilling his guts of like what he was told. And then eventually he asked for prayer. He says, "Man, y'all pray for me." He sits down, put my hands on his head, and begin to rebuke any demons of hurt and things like that were leached to him. And we started praying for him, and then he opens up a little bit more about the guilt and what he has to deal with. And you'll be able to hear it, but I'm gonna go ahead and play just a little clip of this.
I loose you in the name of Jesus. Somebody take that camera. I loose you in the name of Jesus. God, the power of God is here to set you free, brother. The power of God is here to set you free, brother. Oh, you don't know what I did, man. You don't know what I did. You don't know what the fuck I did, man. It's all right. You know I killed one of the children, man. God bless you. No, fuck that. No, fuck that. They told me fucking light up that rooftop. They said light up that rooftop. They said that rooftop, light it up. And we lit that fucking rooftop up. We lit it up. We lit it up. And then when we cleared the restaurant, there was nothing but fucking women and children up there. Fucking 26 women, 27 women. We lit that shit up and killed them.
Man, with Jesus, we set you free from the bondage. We set you free from the hurt. We set you free from the bondage.
Not your fault, brother.
No condemnation.
You've been lied to, brother. They told you to do that. You just thought you were doing the right thing, brother.
I'm gonna fight for Israel.
Still love you, brother.
I want to fight for Israel. That's what I myself. I joined to fight for Israel.
This was a penance, brother. That's all Jesus asked for, man. The sorrow that you feel, man. That's true. And that's all
From naked, man.
if you ever kill women and children, he's gonna punish me.
Let it go, bro. Let it go.
He's scared that God is going to punish him for killing women and children because he was lied to in the war. Now this young man, he's got to live the rest of his life thinking that believing that God is going to punish him and send him to hell for killing innocent lives, women and children. It was really interesting, man, just to see him open up like that. I mean, he was drunk, but that allows you to really say what's on you. He's not going to just walk around and tell random people he's killed and open up. But what we caught on camera, man, was really interesting. If you guys want to watch that whole clip, I will put this in the description. This is an old channel that we had. It's got 8,000 views. I put that up 10 years ago. But there's some other preaching videos and stuff like that as well. But that's interesting, man. I mean, people have to carry that weight and that guilt because they were lied to, right? And somebody's talking about in chat, like the PTSD. And a lot of these guys, when they come back, man, they really suffer. And it's different if it was a righteous act, like giving your life for a righteous cause, right? But you were lied to, and it may have had to deal with oil money or whatever, poppy fields or whatever, like we've definitely been lied to, man. And it's really sad to see people have to go through that.
For sure. The community of people that I'm within, the veteran community, is like these issues keep coming up and they're not going to go away. And the more I think it's just like as part of like a social trauma that we have to deal with it socially, collectively. And when they don't even answer the basic premise of why we're fighting the war, even after it's been thoroughly disproven, that causes a psychological break on people, and the moral guilt that it causes. It's like as soon as you may think you're not getting like any moral guilt from being involved in it, until you accidentally have an experience like that guy did. And I came really close to. I requested to shoot these. Turned out to be a woman and 2 kids, and the request got turned down. And by the time I reassessed, I realized that that's not. But I was told going into this was like a rescue mission, and we were told kill everybody. Everybody that's there, they're bad. I've never been on a mission like that, and it's like, so I almost blasted those people. I had 6 people that dead to rights. One of them was a woman holding a rifle, came out to check what the noise was, and I was I was like looking into the courtyard, and I was the one that had eyes on, and I know other people that would have shot her. And I know other people that just shot people for basically like petty reasons, and then all of a sudden the moral guilt comes into play, and they didn't put into perspective, like, well, what if this whole thing was based on a lie? What if my culture has really betrayed me, and my society is not really behind me, which is kind of the reality that like that guy is probably facing, and I face on a daily basis. It's like I may seem like I'm like fairly okay to be like sitting here and having this conversation with you guys, but like I go through a lot of struggles daily, and the whole like disassociation factor. It's like I don't feel like I can't relate with people, because people don't care about the war, close friends and family that they don't care enough.
Because to them, it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like 9/11's come and gone, and
yeah, maybe it was back when I was influenced on it, when it seemed real, But somewhere around 2010, 2012, people just forgot about it and gave up on it. And I think I'm kind of bitter against Obama because he expanded the war. He lied to everybody. He bailed out the
yeah.
And then he attacked whistleblowers. And meanwhile, you've got the technocracy and Google and like basically going ham with censorship and different things like that. People are like afraid to think against the status quo these days. So where does that leave somebody like me and somebody like this guy who like he just wants some people to like accept the fact that that his guilt would be a lot less if the society took some of that burden that we were all deceived here, and it is a lie. It's an ongoing lie, but they don't want to accept it right now. And so the guilt gets put on people like me and people like that guy and other of my friends. And I know some of my friends aren't around because they just couldn't. I mean, it's like you can't pin it to one thing or the other. It's just like they just like became so unstable considering. And I don't want to say that they, were dealing with extreme guilt or whatever, but it's different for each circumstance. One of them rode his motorcycle off the road. And he's paraplegic, actually. He's still alive. Other people I know rode their motorcycles off the road. They're not around anymore. A good friend of mine that was on he was on the mission that the Extortion 17 went down. The SEAL team that was shot down, and he had to pick up all the pieces of that helicopter full of SEALs. It was like a historically tragic event. The SEALs were coming there to like help out my buddy's Ranger platoon. They were a quick reaction force, but they were basically lured into the valley and they shot down the helicopter, the Taliban did or whatever. And my buddy had to pick up all the pieces after all the explosives had gone off and their rounds had stopped shooting. And it was horrible. And he never, about a year later, he shot himself, in front of his wife. And his wife has had to deal with that. And I'm still friends with her. And, he was tormented though. So it's horrible, and it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going until I kind of feel like people don't understand what's going on with the war right now, and I'm going to have to basically carry a torch until the next Ken Burns documentary comes around, and I can be given a voice, and we can actually go back and fix the story.
Loose change. Loose change back in the day. They were big on the forerunners for the movement and stuff too.
Oh, I don't know who.
Oh, really? Loose change with, and I think We Are Change were helping with those guys. Luke Rudowski and some of those guys. Well, even they're getting more spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who were forerunners into like exposing 9/11 and stuff like that, and leading these marches and stuff. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? That's my belief as far as how to fix things or how to make things better is to ascend spiritually, and you know what I'm saying, fix yourself. And there's this quote, it's a poem, it talks about there was a man who tried to change the world. He couldn't change the world, so he tried to change his nation. Couldn't change his nation, so he tried to change his state. Couldn't change his state, so he tried to change his city. Nobody would listen to him, so he tried to change his family. They wouldn't listen to him, so he eventually changed himself. The opposite, the latter goes on that if the man would have focused on himself, then he could have reached out to his family. Then his family could have reached out to the state. The state could have reached out to the nation, and indeed changed the world. I mean, looking at the model of Christ, right? Start from Jerusalem, Judea, and then the ends of the earth. Start within. That's what I believe as far as just doing that personal change and helping as many people as you can, bringing peace, bringing joy, laughter back to this. I really do feel like we're going to change things that way. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think it's a spiritual battle. But what do you think is the way to change, and how are we going to see resolve come from all of this, whatever's going on?
Well, it's tricky because I totally agree with everything you just said. But I kind of think we're going through a big cosmic shift, in consciousness. And so we're kind of, I don't think nothing can change that. That's happening. And we're in it. And so the time period we're in a way, is reflecting of that. And it's there's a lot of catalysts that are taking place, like the energy, for instance, or, talk about UFOs. Like, well, my grandpa saw a UFO. He saw that technology in the sky. Like, and other people that I know, if I'm in the military, have seen UFOs. Like, I've never seen a UFO besides in this dream experience, and the UFOs that I saw didn't match any other UFOs that you might have seen before. But even like the look of like what the UFO is, it's such you have to approach it spiritually with wisdom. Otherwise, in no way you're going to harness something like that. It's going to destroy you. It's like, if you try to, so as a civilization, I think as we're moving into trying to move beyond fossil fuel, and it's kind of all coinciding. And I think it's coinciding largely with like a major consciousness shift that's taking place. So like I'm kind of watching this stuff play out, and
it's weird that you say that, because I'm with you too. But the government seems to be doing the opposite. The world leaders are trying to hold on to their power.
They're trying,
and they're like getting worse. You know what I'm saying?
Right? Like with like the whole chemtrail thing or the geoengineering. Right? They maybe argue over whether or not it's chemtrails or not, but they've been spraying over or whatever. It's aerosols or something. It's like making the sky. They're blotting out the sky. What are they doing? They're blotting out the sun, and so like my research is showing that like really the sun is going through a major cyclical change, and it's affecting the electromagnetics of the planet, which is all what we all are, toroids, and like electromagnetics. So it's like, imagine the sun's going through a phase, which affects the earth, which affects consciousness of every human being, and that's like horrifying, proposition to like the controllers or like the people, and a lot of them are, as far as like I think the high level government stuff, they saw that coming, and so like we're at like the edge of this time period where like they've been trying to like resist it for a very long time. Yeah. I don't think we're going to be able to resist it like forever. I think people are breaking through it and moving through it, but at the same time, like human will always try to control the situation too. It'll be like we're like tumbling with it, but I see the direction in an extremely positive one. As far as like, okay, so if like the UFO thing, it's like, look at the crop circles. I mean, that's that's free energy right there. Like that's like spiritual knowledge, like right in the crop circles, to basically move away from the control structure that puts like everybody, the 0.1% controlling everybody else. Like, yeah, with that type of knowledge, from every point we can recognize our place within the whole. That's free energy, because then you don't have to be like trying to make everything so rigid that you can control it. That's wasting a lot of energy. If every part knew their function, just intuitively or naturally, that's free energy. That's everybody doing what needs to be done without anybody like really even saying anything about it. It's like it's established. It's on the ground level, and I see that type of stuff coming back out. And I think we're kind of at like with the potential of the technology, or we're kind of in like the twilight zone right now, where nothing seems to make sense and people don't believe anything. But so how do you move into the future from there? Where do you find solid footing? And I think we're going to move back. We're going to like start to learn from our ancient past. And I think we're going to see a reemergence of like the ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge bases start reemerging. And, it used to be established, and then it just kind of gotten forgotten. What we need it to be is established again. Yeah,
I definitely agree. There's a, resurgence of spiritual technology, and a lot of it, what you see in the physical realm, it's mimicking the spiritual realm, right? Facebook, we're all connected. Right, you know when your friend's going to the bathroom, when your friend is going on vacation, right? But there is like spiritual technology like encoded within our DNA that we're able to tap in, and we are all connected. Like we really can bear each other's burdens, and being an empath, you can literally feel it in your body, right? We're connected. So a lot of the technology and the apps and things like that they're creating is like a mimic of our spiritual technology, and in a sense we kind of move away from the spiritual side because we're more into the technological side, And it's coming back to us because they've kind of combined it with us and making us androids and stuff. We definitely, there's some shifts going on. You know, we are changing, whether we're coming upon the age of Aquarius and the next age that is to come. What does that entail? For Christians, it's the return of Christ. Of the Muslim, it's the return of their Savior. The, Hindus, it's the return of Kalki. You know, it's, what I'm saying? It's like something's happening that's going to overthrow the Skeksis, right? It's going to overthrow the wicked leaders. And so there's a lot of people who want to see the, who are for the greater good. And with the use of technology, with the use of internet, we're able to kind of use it for good and take some of these things that they've created and to use against us and use it for good, right? And find loopholes and things like that, and be able to have conversations like this and wake up a lot of people, when we would have had to, been a town crier or something years ago, But yeah, seeing technology advance and where we're going spiritually, trying to work with that and not let it overtake you, and get caught up in the midst of that. A lot of the gatekeepers, whether it's the government or whether it's the spiritual gatekeepers or the religious, they're holding on tight right now because they're losing their grip. They're losing their power and their control, and they see that because there's a new generation, there's a new people rising up who are empathic, who are asking the bigger questions, and we're stating this truth, but it's not welcomed by a lot of the older generations who's been there. But it's something that as the torch is passed from one generation to the next, we're definitely bringing about that change. And there's a lot of things that are dying with the generation ahead of us. A lot of things that are normal for them, the way they were raised, as thinkings and understandings, ideologies that are changing. I don't know if they're all good, but they're definitely changing, right? There's a lot of different agendas and things like that we've seen that we're going to have to kind of deal with and battle and kind of make sense of. But we're definitely in this age of where the power structure is changing on every level, spiritual, pharmaceutical. Again, pharmaceutical, we're going back to nature. We're going back to the plants, the plant teachers, the plant medicines, and going straight to that stuff. Educational stuff. People are losing interest in college because they're starting off with student debt and all this stuff that they're going to have to work a lifetime to pay off when they get out of college. They won't even be able to find a job that's even going to touch their debt at all. But now you can just go online or watch TED Talks or do Udemy courses or whatever and get the same knowledge and insight that you would get for not even a portion of the price, right? And all of these different systems are falling because we're going back to the grassroots and we're returning to the ancient path.
Yeah, and we live in a time period where it's like, what was taught in these secret societies and these, they carried these secrets over time in different areas around the world, right? And they've all been brought together now with the internet. Maybe that was a great convergence. And I think we actually went past that time already. That was 2012, 2016.
Yeah.
I feel like we went through it already. And it's kind of funny that we're doing an interview on September 10th. And I was telling a friend before this is this is a strange time to do an interview because it's such a transitional time. So much is happening. It's literally tomorrow, the biggest news that probably of the year could come out. And there's so many things on that are just waiting to come out right now between Epstein and the coup against Trump. And, if you want to understand the deep state, look at those guys. Mueller was they brought him in a week before 9/11 and it's as deep state as they get, basically.
It's interesting because all of the stuff we've been studying for years and we've been preaching, now it's coming out as fact. They're talking about the Illuminati sacrificing kids and having sex with children and that's just that's not real. Want to bet? Now you're getting to see it. You're getting to see. We've always seen even movies and heard about the moguls and the CEOs making young models have sex with them and do all of these things to get into the music industry or an acting career. It's true. It's coming out. Weinstein, Epstein, all of these people. Nobody is safe. Bill Cosby, R. Kelly. This stuff is coming out, man. There's no stopping it. The gate is open, and all of so for me, and I'll just say this for me, I don't really seek that stuff anymore, or get into it and get into the bottom of it, just because I have a general idea that these people are wicked. You can come out tomorrow and you can make something up as crazy as, Sandra Bullock has this paste that she has. It's I'm just making something up. Sandra Bullock has this paste where she takes the foreskins of children from China or Pakistan and makes a paste out of it and rubs it on her face so that she doesn't age. Something as crazy as that. And I could believe it. It wouldn't shock me. Because that's real. Like, they're really doing that. As crazy as something like that sounds, they admit, and it's not even conspiracy theories, the wickedness. These people are taking the blood of children. Now, look it up. It's not even conspiracy. They're in the open with it. They're taking the blood of children and pumping it into their veins so that they can live longer. They're taking their blood out and putting the blood of children within them so that they have more, that they don't age. This is fact. This isn't conspiracy stuff. This stuff is crazy, man. These people are not who they say they are, you know?
I can caveat this, Derek, and maybe we can talk a little bit more along the line, the satanic ritual abuse stuff, because I feel like my story, the military's thing, it's like, it's a cultural, there's definitely satanic ritual abuse on a massive scale. Like, and people, when you kind of come around to seeing that, because people are like, well, how can we be deceived like that? 9/11. But when you start to look at it, at all the occult symbolism and everything surrounding it, it was basically like a giant ritual of sacrifice of the youth of our country, and they need to harvest the youthful energy in order to do to get things like that done. And that's where the Satanism stuff comes in. But I'm really glad to see that this is that. The whole satanic ritual abuse and the elite pedophile sex trafficking network stuff is coming back out, because to me, that's more important than my military story. Because I'd known for a little while, thinking about well, what's the best way, what's the right way to address this? What's the truthful way to address what's going on here? And you have to look at the nature of evil and how it's being carried out. And it's the apex of this evil is the abuse of children, so, and that's what I was going through. That's what I went through. And now that this stuff is coming out, I see that. And I've been following that a lot too.
Adrenochrome and that crazy stuff.
That's real. And I can share one personal experience versus that, this hasn't happened to me, but my grandpa, the same grandpa that saw the UFO, and I shared that story in the Buzzsaw interview, but his friend in the old folks home, they've been friends for 10 years there, and I've known she's basically part of the family. But she busted a Satanist circle back in the 60s, I believe, for the FBI, because the school that she worked for, there's a group of girls, they're all pregnant at the same time, and there's weird stuff going on. And so the FBI contacted my grandpa's friend and asked her to go undercover for him. And she did. And she caught them one night. She went undercover with she wasn't in the group. She was just following them and watching from a distance. And she was all covered in black and stuff, and so that they couldn't see her because it was nighttime. But she caught them all throwing their babies into the fire and sacrificing them to Satan,
Yeah.
So that's a very real thing. There's 40 girls that were doing that at this school, small school, crazy, insane that you would imagine that something like that could be going on in small town Illinois. I didn't think that was possible. That type of stuff existed just underneath the surface.
Yeah.
But once you realize that it does, and that it's been being covered up for a long time, and there's people like Ted Gunderson. Do you know Ted Gunderson?
I've heard the name.
He's the former FBI head of the LA division of the FBI. And once he got out of the FBI, he went full scale into investigating the Satanism stuff. And then he ended up getting poisoned and killed.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff that was the big stuff in the 90s, right? It was all over
2000.
TV.
teens.
We heard a lot about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. These two. But.
Well, I'm just talking about it was all over TV, like all of these things that were happening, right? And we'd always hear about these satanic rings and stuff like that being busted. A lot of it's hush-hush now, but I think there's a resurgence of it because we thought that there were these little pockets of just random people who were into Marilyn Manson or into Crowley or whatever. But when we find out that it's our government who are into these things, and it's crazy. I talk about it all the time, but when I was into some pretty dark witchcraft, not that, but making pacts with demons and spirits as a teenager, and needed help. I called a bunch of churches in my area. This was in Hammond, Louisiana. Called about 15 churches, left messages saying, hey, I think I'm demon possessed. I need prayer. One church called me back, and the pastor came to our house or where we were staying with my grandmother, me and my girlfriend, and he prayed with me, and they picked us up and would bring us back and forth to church. About a year later, we ended up moving away, and we'd come back and visit that church. Well, we'd come back, and about a year later, and they had the windows were sealed off with aluminum foil. And so we went up there to see what time church service was because we were just visiting. And they had the church time scratched off of the door. Like they were etched on the door, but they scratched them off. So we couldn't find out what time they started. About a year after that, 6 months to a year, my mom comes in town and says, yeah, did you guys hear about that church I used to go to? I said, no, what happened? I said, yeah, they're all over CNN. They got caught having sex with kids. They were trading kids. Like people would bring their kids and they would like trade and they'd have sex, and they was doing animal sacrifices, and they got into Satanism and pedophilia. And members, the pastor, his family, teachers, people who were involved in law enforcement in this small town in Hammond, Louisiana, they were all in on it. They were bringing their kids and trading out, and they had they found bones and animal bones just buried everywhere, all over the place where they were doing ritual, and it was just demonic stuff, man. And that was the church that I was going to. Like when I was there, I didn't see anything suspicious. They were just a crazy out there charismatic church, right? Didn't see anything out there, but come to find out, they ended up doing a series on it, and the show True Detective is based off of my old church, which it's crazy, but stuff's going on in small towns and all over the place, and people think it's like it doesn't happen anymore, or just because it's not happening to you that it's not real, or you've never seen it.
Well, this goes right back to like the Satanism thing. I think you really got to address it at the darkest point of like the most trauma in order to basically cause the most relief from that. If we can relieve some of the darkest trauma, which is basically satanic ritual abuse, then if we did that, then we would be able to understand 9/11. Then we'd be able to understand like a lot of other things as pertaining to the trauma of our society. But what was I going to say? Shoot, I lost it. I had the thought that I was going to say to you. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just again. I mean, like I don't like to. I know it serves its purpose, and people are called to different things. But for me, I understand that these people are wicked. Again, there's nothing you can tell me that's going to blow my mind, right? Whether it's the penis facial cream that they take the foreskins of kids and put on their face, or if they're abducting children, or they're having sex with children, or they're pumping the blood out of their body and you can't, like, there was a point in time where this is all I was consumed with it. Oh, what else are they doing? Oh, they got FEMA coffins. They're going to kidnap everybody, and they're letting aliens abduct us. Whatever it is, like, it doesn't shock me anymore. So I know that just like studying the evils that these people are doing, there is no end to it. The Bible says that they keep creating new ways. They keep coming up with new, and they're going to hit you with something else that you never heard. They have energy weapons and guns and towers that change the consciousness of the people in the neighborhood, chemicals and sprays and things that, like, they're feeding us fake food. and it's being passed by the FDA, and they're able to like regulate wood chips that they put in the meat, and they're pumping the chicken full of stuff, and they have a clear conscience with selling people fake food, and we're eating plastic, and it's insane to think this, and to think that these people are righteous or that there's any good within them. Like once you're aware of that, like it changes everything, you know. And for some people, it does take looking into FEMA camps. It does take looking into satanic ritual abuse and things like that to wake up and start somewhere. Like the alarm clock is different for everybody. Some people wake up because, you know, they have an encounter with Christ. Another person wakes up because they've lost all hope within their government or their family, whatever the case is, man. And I respect that. Like different people are called to research and to bring different information out, you know?
For sure. I just remembered what I was going to say. I was just thinking like when you said that about the church, and when just thinking about the Satanism stuff in general, because it's so dark and you don't want to go there. And, but like, I feel like there are so many inversions that are allowed in our society right now that, you know, people become so, they become disenchanted with it all. And then they go to these other things as like so for instance, like if your church, I grew up in a really strong Christian family, and we never had there was never any sexual abuse, never anything like that. My family is like very strong Christian, but like, I had a lot of issues with the church itself, and like I'd sit in there and they'd talk. They're selling especially coming back from the war. So I'll just talk from that perspective. But coming back from the war, I'd try to go to church, and I'd have a hard time because they're still talking about the Muslim thing. And I know that that we literally justified that to go invade and kill millions of people. Like that's reality to me, not to a lot of those people in the church. But so I'd hear that, and it's like I realized like this is dangerous because people become disenfranchised with it all. And where do they go? They try to polarize from it. They say, "Oh yeah, you guys are not real," you know. So we're going to go to something that's real. And what do? They create a mirror image of what they hated about the one. And the irony is very stark. And then they basically lose themselves to dark spiritual force, because the spiritual reality is real. But when you don't have the spiritual truth coming through in your society, because you have gatekeepers that are inverting the knowledge and they're just pushing disinformation, you know, people want to oppose all this and feel like, you know, they're like the guy that's like at the corner of the class that, you know, probably a little bit smarter than a lot of people, but just has a chip on his shoulder because doesn't feel like he fits in, you know, and just says, "Oh, I don't want to involve in that because I don't like falling in a line the way that like the class wants you to, because you know you don't believe in the topic and you have every reason to, but they would never give you that. They'd never give you that sort of credibility when you're in high school."
It's weird because like I've seen it with politics and everything we're talking about now. And religion as well, and a lot more recently. But if we look at like Christians and the way they vouch for Trump or they vouch for the war, like there would be injustices going on, satanic ritual abuse, sex scandals, anything you want. And because it fits their agenda or their side, they have to vouch for it. Like they have to make up ways in their mind, for one, but even like socially, how what Trump is doing is okay, or the different quotes Trump has said about women and about immigrants and stuff like that. Like the people, the Christian right would have to like, they will put up with what he's saying and act like it's okay because he's on their side. He's one of them. And so people who do the same thing as Trump or whoever on the other side, then they're an enemy, and then they're like, hey, let's take their sin or their flaws and let's expose it. And going back to the left or whatever, stuff that Biden's doing and all of the weird stuff that goes on the left, and how they're like, well, it's okay. Like, you know, and they're making excuses for things that they should be appalled over. But because it fits their agenda and whatever other things that they're promoting that they like, they're willing to not give their opinion or not stand up for justice or righteousness. It goes on in the church. It goes on in politics, on your job site. Like, it goes on everywhere, right? Because your boss did something you can't tell on your boss, even though you probably should. He's embezzling money. He's, sexually harassing women. But if you say something, you're going to be in trouble, right? And so there's that thing that's going on now. And it's really weird how, people are just hush-hush when it comes to injustices because they don't want to rock the boat, or they have an agenda or a side that they've chosen, right? We see that going on like crazy.
Oh, for sure. The self-censorship, the whole, oh, I don't want to rock the boat thing. Like, oh, I don't want to look at the truth. I don't want to look at the facts because it might, he
didn't really mean that.
What?
Or anything, like just the different excuses, man, on both sides. Like, I've talked to Christians about the things that Trump has even just said, and it's like, dude, that's demonic, bro. And they're like, no, he didn't mean it like that. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think we actually, and I have a knack at basically speaking my mind to the degree where people people that were on my side, all of a sudden, oh, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can.
I see, and because you even, that's something that you heard on some of my interviews, especially with the praying medic. It's like, I don't want to touch it because I don't want to polarize. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to take a hard stance on this just because I'm open and I don't know. I may have an opinion, but I'm willing to just sit back because I have the opinion. Like, if I really spoke out on the way I feel about certain things, whether it's Trump or whatever the case is, you're going to lose a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? And it's just part of it's where we are, man,
I don't even care. Because you know what? Try living a life of a disabled veteran trying to speak out about this stuff. You don't have people on your side anyway. What do I have to lose?
Obviously it's kind of like an oxymoron because you're getting paid by the same people that you're exposing, right? So it's like, what if, and this could happen, what if because a breach of contract, just because of a clause or whatever, it's like, hold on, in order for you to keep getting this money, you can't be talking like that on the internet,
They could, but I don't think they're going to, and I'm not gonna stop, and I'd fight it, and I'd have to because I have no other. And it might even help win people to the whole Pat Tillman thing, or even discussing the 9/11 war or any of the other topics. I'm kind of I've brought up some of these topics that's I'm willing to talk freely on them, but the government doesn't want necessarily that spotlight. So I know I could lose the disability for it.
Yeah, it's just part of it, man. But in the end,
the day in my shoes, because and as for yourself as well, I'm sure you've gone through some things that I can't even, we've all experienced trauma on levels that are hard for other people to understand, the intense traumatic experiences we've had. But as a vet living in Tennessee right now, I didn't grow up in Tennessee, but I live in Tennessee right now to be closer to some of my family, and there's not really much support for somebody that is talking 9/11 truth. In fact, it kind of doesn't win me any friends, and kind of makes me oh, I'm that outlier guy, and but I'm willing to talk about any of these topics. I feel like I just I'd rather have intellectual courage and the ability to think and speak freely. Than that's more important to me than fitting somebody else's mold or winning over. Dude, it's hard to get a girlfriend in the situation I'm in right now. You tried doing the type of things that I'm I'm not saying you specifically, but just because you probably know as well that it's not easy when you're you put yourself out there so much, but I'm targeted, and the type of information that I have to share makes me basically targeted for life. It's hard for people to want to be there, and
there's no turning back though, right? It kind of pushes you over.
Back. There's no point turning back. But it would have been nice to have that support when I when I started, but it didn't work out that way. So
yeah. Well, again, like, you know, these things that we've been talking about for years. I mean, I got into a lot of this stuff maybe 2008, 2006, you know, and then became vocal about it. And I was crazy. I mean, and this is popular topics now. They're silly that I even would mention them. The New World Order, the Illuminati, 9/11. And we were in church and talking about this stuff and putting it in our music. And people were like, it was the furthest thing that they could fathom, because they've never seen anything like that. They haven't done the research. They don't know. It wasn't part of their reality. And now your pastor can do a sermon on the Illuminati, and it's okay. Like the church, like average layperson is an expert on the Illuminati. You know what I'm saying? And secret society, and like they found like the things we've been standing on and being like. There's a lot of forerunners in these movements, right? And we've been talking about this stuff for years and been called crazy and wore the badge. And now everybody's talking about it. I always talk about it for me, like, because I do approach, I am a Christian, right? I believe in Christ and the sacrifice he did for our sins. And it's the biggest part of my story and the message that I want to get across at the end of the day. But, the fact of the matter is that's not the only thing. There are other things. There are things that lead up to that. It doesn't end there, right? So I may talk about plant medicines as a Christian, right? As a believer, and like people, it doesn't go together. Like people don't want to hear about it, and you know, and that was a big thing for me being on my job and saying, oh, if your boss finds out about that you're doing open discussions on podcasts about using drugs or whatever the case is, or I mean, I even had my wife made me like block all of her family on social media for a while because I would openly share, you know, my experiences with psilocybin and UFOs and that kind of stuff, and that's going to be really weird for Thanksgiving dinner. You know what I'm saying? That this is what I do, and so after everybody telling you not to do it and don't talk about it, and it's like, man, this is something that changed my life, and I believe it's going to set other people free. There's no way I could keep it to myself. And it's different for everybody, whether that's the vegan who's militant, who, you know, found out the suffering that they were causing, whether that's the person who was in the war, who has harmed or maybe even killed innocent people, and the karmic debt that they already feel and they owe. So they're working to offset the balance and the evil that they've done. I mean, all these light workers and psychics and healers that I've been talking to over the years, there's one thing that they all have in common. They've been through some stuff. They've seen the darkness and they've done it. They were a misguided teen. They were people who have done a lot of dark things. So now they've kind of devoted their life, even subconsciously, to helping people, to offsetting that karmic debt or whatever, or just trying to make things right before they go. You know what I'm saying? It's their debt to society. And nobody's told them that. This is an inward thing that people are coming to, a conclusion. I look back at my life. Maybe you can look at yours as well and say, man, I'm trying to make things right. You know what I'm saying? And it's working. And whatever cost that is that I have to pay, I'm willing to pay it, you know, whether it's giving my own blood or my social status or whatever the case is, right?
For sure, Derek. And I appreciate you for doing what you're doing with the show and everything.
Well, man, I really, dude, I appreciate this conversation again. Like, sometimes we have to talk about the dark stuff, right? There's no contrast without it. You know, you don't know what you're up against, like, if you don't know. And everybody has their story, right? And then, so I really appreciate this conversation, man. Do you have a website? Do you have YouTube? What's the best place for the people want to get involved with you? Twitter, Facebook? What you got?
Everything for me is like a dumpster fire right now. You know, dude, there's an active coup against our president, and I actually I didn't vote for Trump, but I'm sticking up for him because I think he's addressing the financial situation that needed to be addressed decades ago, and I've seen that as like being in basically really one of the driving factors around like all the militarism. So I see some resolution there, and the QAnon stuff. I think that actually is military intelligence.
Wow.
And
yeah.
I do. And I think it is plugged right into Trump's administration. And I think that we will find out about that. Maybe not, but.
What do you think about Snowden? You don't think that he's a psyop as well? Do you think that that's legit? all that
you know,
stuff.
all kind of psyops, but like we all kind of you know, people probably think, oh, I'm a psyop.
Yeah. You're right. Or me too, because I get it too, and I'm nobody, you know.
Yeah, I've heard that Snowden was like a CIA. There's infighting between the intelligence organizations, but it's like essentially like we have like, you know, post World War II with the creation of the intel agencies and a lot of a big globalist agenda going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of corruption there that like needs to come out, and it was just ready to burst, you know. So Snowden, like, to me, is an American hero. Assange is a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Manning is a hero, even though I at the same time like I disagree with certain. I wouldn't have done what he did, but like, but I think he's a hero, but that's debatable. It's like from a low level point of view, like the type of things that he released, like could have hurt, but at the same time, no, we just should never have been there, you know. And you shouldn't be. It's a horrible precedent to turn on the people that are trying to like expose the corruption. Because guess what? We're all flawed. We were all like involved in something that like maybe we should, you know, we shouldn't have been involved in.
Yeah.
Why are you going to like attack the person that comes out and says, hey, I need to tell you this. I was involved in this thing and it's really bad and it's going on right now.
Yeah.
So you're going to attack that person? You know, what sort of precedent is that going to set? Especially when you're in the longest running war in our history and we're losing it. We don't know how to win, you know? We don't even know why we're fighting. So it's like, no, I love Snowden, Assange, Manning. And I think it's important to create an environment where we get more whistleblowers that come out from these the deeper, darker projects, because they're all injured people, and we need to. If we don't have the love to accept basically like what they have to say, they're not going to come out. You know.
Yeah. What do we I mean, what do you think is the plumb line though? Like, what do you have to like weigh this stuff against? Because with that, there's definitely, if you want to call them psyops or maybe opportunists are out there of, hey, let me play this role. I've been studying it for a while. I mean, those people are in everything, right? They're in the government. They're in the whistleblower community. They're in the UFO community. They're in the church. You know what I'm saying? And they come out and they have these fake stories and they're getting paid. They put out a book. Maybe they've got a publishing deal and they've made it up. It's great entertainment for a group of people who are into government conspiracies, for a group of people who are into aliens and UFOs, or for a group of people who are into church experiences or whatever. Like those people who are like making it up. How do we prove like who is telling the truth and who's making it up? Do you think that there's a good way? Do you have to? I mean, what would you say? Because there's definitely people among us who are just making it up as they go, and they're great storytellers, man. You know.
Sure. Take everything with a grain of salt. Take it all in. Listen. I've listened to countless hours of like whistleblowers from any sort of walk of life or any sort of involvement, and whether it's like the Google whistleblower that just came out, or vaccine whistleblowers, or secret space program, you know, things that
Corey
I can't. There's no way that I could like say, hey, he's this guy's. And
exactly.
So I'll listen, being like, man, this could be totally a psyop. It's probably a psyop. Like, what if it is a psyop? Like, what does that tell me about like what's going on here, and why are they pushing this information out? What of it is real and what's not? You know, how can I corroborate it with other? Because I'll talk to anybody about UFOs or anything like that. It's like I've had countless conversations with people, and a buddy of mine in the military, he witnessed UFOs when we were doing a military exercise, and we jumped into this airfield in like Utah. It might be pretty close to Groom Lake, this airfield that we jumped into, and our battalion was doing a airfield seizure sort of like training exercise, and his job was to be on the ground and to watch with binoculars and to radio in when we got there. And he showed up like a week early to prepare for this thing. And one of the local guys says, "Oh yeah, and that mountain over there, that's where the aliens are, and they come out at night." And he thought the guy was joking. And then when he's sitting out there at night with his binoculars, he saw all these things coming out of the mountain and doing crazy stuff. You know, It's like, you know, that's a piece. Okay, the Groom Lake thing, and the Native Americans also talked about that stuff in the region, you know. So there's some cross examination stuff going on there. I've had people that I've known people that are very spiritually minded, would never be any sort of military stuff, but they've meditated themselves into having experiences with grays. And it's whoa, you know, because I was still unsure whether or not I would have been targeted by the military or not. Because somebody like Stephen Greer is saying they have psychotropic sort of weapons that they can focus on you and give you an experience like that.
Are you talking about the military? Yeah.
So
with the MyLab stuff?
I don't know if what my experience was, whether it was a targeted thing or whether it was military.
Well, ask. You should look into it more. You're definitely. Who am
I going to ask, and who am I going to believe? You know, and so I talk to anybody about any of these things.
Well, I mean, ask for a repeat experience, like a good one or a bad one, whatever. If it happened, if there's something within you that wants to know. You know what I'm saying? And you can do it. You know, you mentioned Stephen Greer. He mentions the stuff about, you know, the as far as the MyLab, and I really do side with Stephen Greer. I know he gets a lot of flack, but I really do like Stephen Greer's work and the CE5 initiative. I have a whole chapter in my book that's dedicated to my personal CE5 contact, and you can have repeatability, and if it's something that was good, I would try it, man. The stargazing stuff and getting out there, and no fear, man. You know what I'm saying? Just go out of this. He's like, man, you gonna get me abducted, beat up by aliens again? But I would want to know, because that births something in you that you will never get rid of. You'll always be asking why, and even if you had another experience, you'd probably still be asking why or how or what is this, you know?
Sure.
Because I think, and Stephen Greer claims to have the answers. I don't think he has. You know, I don't know if he really even knows what the hell he's tapping into. You know, and I think he has a big piece of the truth, and he deals with a lot with free technology and free energy and stuff. You know.
Yeah, he's up to his eyeballs with the type of people that could be manipulating him, right? With that type of, when you get the CE5 thing, I wonder if that is even real. This in the desert where they call in the aliens. It's or multidimensional beings or whatever. If the government knows people are going to go to a specific spot to
you go in your backyard, man. Okay, go in your backyard. Yeah, you can go. You ain't got to tell nobody. Dude, I've seen. After watching so many hours of their stuff and just going out doing my own thing, dude, I've had some crazy encounters, and it does turn into physical encounters as far as seeing the ships and the lights, and then going back into the place of prayer and meditation where you kind of they start speaking telepathically, giving you thoughts and things like that. And it's not bad stuff as far as what I've encountered. Really, for me, it aligns more with the angelic, with the Bible, you know, fasting and praying and going out stargazing and angels appearing to the disciples and giving them their life's journey. That's why at the beginning I was kind of liking it to you, even though it may have seemed scary, but it's kind of put you on this path of your destiny of getting the truth out, right? And it has something to deal with it. So, you know, I wouldn't be I'm doing what I'm doing now because of those encounters. It's I've turned my back on a lot of different belief systems and the type of person that I was, and I'm doing this great work now because of those encounters, you know. And there's a lot of people, even if your life isn't given to, let me teach you how to contact them or whatever, or repeatability, there's something spiritual that happens that's imparted to you that lights a fire within you, you know.
Oh, for sure. I'll share another experience with you, Derek, if you want.
Sure, let's go.
I've met two Pleiadians, and I introduced them to each other. They never met each other, and they both told me the same day, because we were all at a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and at the end of it, we all, in the end of something like that, you're basically tripping. You're you're on truth drugs, you know, because you've been in the same room with each other for 10 days. Meditating, and you know each other's energy probably better than you feel almost anybody at that point, because you just feel each other over the year and over the days, and like you feel you can really relate with somebody. But then after it, I started talking with one of the guys, and he told me like, yeah, I'm a Pleiadian alien. I'm like, well, that's very interesting, like, well, how can you explain this to me? Like, and he says, yeah, I had this giant blue being appeared to me, and I'm like, whoa, so were you on drugs or something? He's like, no drugs, nothing. This being appeared to me, a tall blue being, and he told me that the being told him that it was just like his dad from Pleiades, and that he's here to remind him of his mission on Earth. And he showed him experiences of his life in Pleiades and his family, and then he also showed him experiences of his life on Earth here in Atlantis and Lemuria. I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Because this guy, he's like 23 years old, but he looked like in his eyes like he was like 300, and he really believed what he was saying. So I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Well, I've had a alien abduction experience, and I shared that with him, but it's like, mine was totally contrast to his. Not to say like his would be like good and mine would be like not bad, but trauma. And then I'm sitting at the lunch table there like when we're getting ready to leave, I meet another one. This guy's like in his 50s, and he's from Australia. He's like, I'm a Pleiadian alien, and he's here because he cares like about the Earth and the oceans in particular. And the dolphins and the whales, and this guy like body surfs the biggest waves. He's in like Australia, and he does like long distance swims and stuff that people would consider kind of crazy. But so I introduced those two of them, and then I got to hear them talk about their planet. Like, and I was just standing there. It was just very strange, because I didn't even know that was like anything. There was anything to that. And then in one day I meet two of them, and I introduce them, and they never talked to each other. And I got to hear that, like, so that was kind of an eye opener too. That like, whoa.
I wonder if they came to that conclusion like while they were in deep meditation. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think so. 'Cause it sounded like they came to that conclusion a lot prior
before they came to Earth.
or probably, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I've heard a lot of different stories, man. I mean, one of the things that really led me to the work of Jordan Maxwell was his encounters with people and beings popping up in his life, protecting him and sharing stuff with him and summoning UFOs on command and things like that. Jordan Maxwell has some amazing stories about that. And so I believe that those people are here. I mean, the Bible even talks about like some of us have entertained angels unaware. And there's a lot of stuff out there about how they look just like us. And maybe they're carrying jobs. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're working at Jiffy Lube. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? How they operate, or maybe I don't know what they're doing, but I do believe in it, man. And I've had too many crazy encounters with those, with ships and with the voices that communicate telepathically from ships. Like you see the ship and there's a thought that's immediately implanted into your head. There's a lot of ancient art, Renaissance art of like the saints and Jesus and queens. There's one, I'm talking about this thought that's embedded. There's a UFO and then there's one of a dove with a little thin beam going to the person's head, like they're sending them telepathic thoughts and stuff like that. And that's how they communicate. It's telepathically, man. It's all throughout the Bible, all throughout the other holy books. And then you look at the work of Stephen Greer, or maybe just have your own encounters as well. And it's just something, it starts to make sense. The stuff starts to click. Comments we have here. Prince of Nile Valley says, why do we only see spaceships from far away? UFOs must have a detector for cameras not to get caught, or they are programmed to avoid places with cameras.
I don't know. My grandpa saw a UFO from pretty close up.
Yeah, I've seen, and I put it in my book, and you'll just have to read it. But I have had an encounter where one came down right above my house, and I seen it, and my daughter seen it. Freaked us out. Thought I was scared because I thought I might get abducted. Because now it's real. Now they're not way outside of the atmosphere saying hello, waving. Now they're above your house. It's like, oh. So, with all the movies and things that I watch, it's hard to undo that programming. thinking that I'm going to get taken and never be brought back and have experiments done to me and, all that kind of stuff. So the fear is still like embedded. But, I think there's some pretty convincing footage out there, of UFOs and even types of beings and things like that are flying through the ethers, or what we would call outer space, or whatever you think that is. There's some decent footage, but there is something about the camera though. When they know that you're trying to take a picture, I feel like a lot of times they leave. I've had beautiful encounters, and the moment I pull out a camera, they're not there. And there's times where I've seen them there with the camera, but it just doesn't pick up because probably it was it was a cell phone, and you're trying to focus on things that are probably outside of the Earth's atmosphere, But man, there's a lot of exploration, and people are hungry for the truth and whatever portion that they have. And that's definitely a big portion of mine is ufology and the angelic and demonic and things like that, and trying to make sense of what it is. Again, you even talk about your encounter not really knowing exactly what it was. Like, was it an angel? Was it a demon? And you have a lot of people who write books. There's a lot of Christians who will say that anything like that is demonic, like anything otherworldly.
That's why I don't listen to them, because
exactly.
And because I know that it could have been something like, just because if your mother slaps you over because you're doing something really stupid and you're about to hurt yourself really bad, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It doesn't
get chastised. The Bible says the Lord chastises those to whom he loves. What are you doing? Stop it.
The Greys are notorious for being like very mechanical.
Yeah.
Or basically just, they don't feel like they have any empathy or human, you don't relate to it. So it could be a mechanical sort of being. It could, and there was another being there next to it that was taller and that was totally different, but I was like psychically locked with the Grey. So it could have been working for the other being. The other being could have been an insectoid. Really.
Well, a lot of people, the other thing, like you said, like the Greys may be a machine or some type of suit or something that something or someone is wearing, on the ship or whatever the case is. But no, it's very interesting. I do like the work of Stephen Greer. I think I like James Gilliland's work even more with his spiritual approach to, the UFOs and ufology and things like that,
Well, Jarek, can I share a little bit about kind of tying it back into the spiritual side of it? And this is kind of like my end message a little
For sure.
bit. But,
let's do it.
So like experiencing these things and I can't necessarily see the Grey as like a bad thing. I just see it as like an archetype almost of like something that, and it's not more powerful than God, and I had to like remind myself that, because when you experience like a being of like another dimensionality like that, it's like you want to like completely disempower yourself to the it's like that was what I was dealing with. It's just like I didn't know how to hold myself together in light of this. But that is not more powerful than God. God has always transcended that of any archetypes or any something that comes out with us, that's, if I'm seeing it in like the vision like that, it's like logos, it's just like, but God's transcendent. And going back for me to the Native Americans, I found like the simple wisdom that I really has helped me, I think, with the sacred hoop and the flowering stick. But we are all given a sacred hoop and a flowering stick, and who you are in your personal growth is determined by, and your spiritual growth is determined by how you place the stick within the hoop, in which direction, and the stick grows to become a flowering tree, and all the hoops and all the trees are connected like sacred geometry, and so there's only one hoop and there's only one tree, but and that's the Great Spirit and the great, so that's who we all really are as one, and I'm nothing in comparison to that. My if I have any identity apart from Christ or apart from God himself, it's not true, so like I think we are moving into an age where the alien thing and multidimensionality and demons and angels and stuff are like really coming out of the background and into the foreground, and that's like where we're going to need to go, is just recognizing the spiritual truth. And for me, that's always been Christ. Jesus Christ. But I have so many issues with the church that I feel like we need something to anchor on, that we can give the respect to other cultures. And for me, that's the sacred hoop. It's the eternal principles that like basically bind us all together. And if you, with that, you don't have to disempower yourself to the fear of like basically like change that's coming at us quicker than we know how to handle. From that place, you can walk on water, you can, from that place, you have solid ground underneath you. And I think that's what we need.
That's it, man. And that's what those spiritual encounters should embody. You know what I'm saying? We talk about the fruit of a spiritual encounter, like what happens to you after that. Like you talking about the alien encounter, and then you're talking about multiple encounters, right? And what type of fruit is that producing in your life? Like, are you more conscious now? Are you still hard-headed? Like, what is it producing within you? I like to look at the Bible and see, like, they had an encounter. A lot of times their life was changed. It gave them their destiny or whatever, and it changed their life. And so that's how I prove these type of things, right? It's like, what did it do to you? Are you spoiled? Do you just have a lot of them? There's some people, but seeing the fruit that it produces in your life, we are spoiled. Like with all of this stuff, spirituality and all this stuff is right here at our fingertips. We get to pick and choose and what works best for us and what helps us and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the spirituality, all of the knowledge and information and stories, like, again, like going back to Manly P. Hall, if the life of your dog isn't better because of your spirituality, then your spirituality is in vain. If you're kicking the dog, still kicking the dog on the way out the door, Manly P. Hall says, and the spirituality is in vain. And I really believe that, man. Just looking to make better people, more conscious, more loving, more caring, more connected with nature, and being able to understand that of not just the spirituality that is in Christ, but it starts with Christ and it moves out to everything. Like Christ's universal love for all things, for all people, and once you can experience that, believe that, and embody that, then I think we'll really change the world. And you have to be open to be able to go out to look into these other truths and these other things. And then at the end of the day, you find out that maybe even Christ or some of the disciples, apostles, prophets, they were into some of this stuff as well. That's new to us. They knew this stuff as second nature. And that's what we're returning to, I believe, even with the dawning of the next stage. So, bro, I really appreciate it again, man.
Thanks, man.
Where can people find you at? I know they can find your other interviews, which are really good, but where's like the best place, man? If somebody has a question or wants to reach out.
I don't want people to like judge me based off my Facebook, because I am just following current events and I just say whatever I want. I just stepping on all sorts of toes right now. You can find me on Facebook, Torrey Grossman. You could find me on YouTube. I have like a channel. I don't have that many videos on it. I'll add this video on there as well. But I like create playlists, and you could message me on there if you want. You could email me at abookaboutacircle@gmail.com. I have a website that I haven't really done anything to in a couple years, but I created it for the first interview that I did, and I have a spiritual mini book that I wrote on it. It's called abookaboutacircle.com. Just one word, a book about a circle. And so like I kind of wrote that book in order to create like an anchor for myself spiritually. My anchor's always been in Christ, but like I searched for a lot of different things to like help make sense, so that I didn't feel like, being a Christian is going to polarize me from whole segments of the whole world, So I've tried to like look into other spiritual teachings and bring them together and like understand like where Christ is in their teachings, so that I can relate with other people. I wrote that mini book. So bookaboutasircle.com.
Awesome. Y'all make sure you go check it out. Check out his website. Check out his other interviews as well. Torrey, appreciate the interview, man. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed our discussion.
Likewise, Derek. Thank you.
All right, brother. Be blessed. Have a good one.
You too.
Peace, peace. Torrey Grossman, ladies and gentlemen. I think we wrapped it up really nicely. I think we brought it home. Spirituality. Focusing on the things above, right? I enjoyed it. Really interesting story. It's good stuff. Let's see here. Again, man, it's so awesome. Like some of the stuff we're talking about, it's going to be in my book. hate to do shameless plugs, but I've been working hard on it. Spirit Realm's coming out pretty soon. Man, I had so much stuff I wanted to talk about, but we're already 2.5 hours in. Let me just, I guess I'll talk about some of the stuff maybe. Just a couple notes. I had some notes. I have some things I've been wanting to talk about. The internet, again, like I know I already mentioned that, but literally was an 8-month battle. That was driving me crazy, guys. I went through some weird, I don't know if it's depression, but it was definitely questions and trying to figure out how to make it work and wrestling with that. And I tried so many different things to try to get my internet to work. Like I got a second internet provider, which is slow, and it wasn't even fast enough to run a podcast or to live stream. So that was a no-go. Ended up getting faster phone internet and trying to tether my phone to the computer to run off of my phone's internet. That wasn't stable. I found a program that lets my internet and the phone internet connect as one, and it finds out the fastest connection or the stable connection and keeps you going. So in my mind, I was like, let's just use my internet connection. And then when it drops out, because it would frequently drop out, anytime that it drops out, then the phone internet would pick it up and just keep me on. Even though the quality might not be as good, it would still keep me on. But that didn't really work out that well either. Cutting out mid-sentence and all that kind of stuff. Man, it was such a headache. This is what I do. So, man, I'm glad that that's over. It's still kind of surreal because over the 8-month period, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse. So I've become used to it. Like I've been used to doing an interview, talking with somebody, and just any second getting ready for the internet to drop out. And it would even, I felt like the content wasn't even as good for me on my end, just because I'm trying to like work all this stuff on the back end, making sure these connections are going and still trying to pay attention to you know, do the interview some good, do due diligence to be present and focus on the conversation when I'm focused on the back end. Anyway, I'm glad that's over. It's still surreal because I've become used to that, which sucked. But I'm happy now, man. It's working good. It's crazy. There's a bunch of other things I want to touch on, and I'll probably do that on another podcast. I guess I'll talk about this right quick. Give a shout out to this young man. And I'm sorry if you're listening. I forgot this guy's name, and I know I'm going to butcher it. Leave me a comment, bro. I think his name was Corey, or I don't know. It started with a C. I'm sorry, man. I suck with names, but I'm going to call you Corey. Anyway, I went to a conference this past Saturday. It was the Light the Fire Again conference in Pensacola, Florida. A lot of people who were involved with the Brownsville revival were there. Went to that. We got there a little bit early, and we were standing outside getting ready to go in, and there's this guy looking at me, and I look at him, and he looks familiar. He looks like somebody I know, so I'm trying to make sure it's not him. And he's looking at me. He's like kind of glancing over at me. I'm like, is that him? Like if it's him, I don't want to act like I don't know him. I want to say hello if it's the guy I think it is. So we ended up going to sit down. I sat down kind of close to him. We're still outside, just by him. And then he walks over there to me. And I'm looking around, and all of these people are like, it's a Christian conference, really big. Everybody's giving prophetic words, and there's random people praying for people all over the place. It's a really, it's a cool atmosphere. But I figure that it was somebody coming up saying, hey, the Lord has a word for you, or can I pray for you, or something. Anyway, the guy comes over to me, says, hey, man, what's up? I say, how's it going? He said, are you True Seeker? I said, yeah, True Seeker, man, what's up? And he said, oh, man, I can't believe I'm meeting you, man. My name is so-and-so. I'm going to say Corey. He told me his name and introduced me to his friend, but he was just like, I didn't know how we know. I said, hey, man, how do you know me? He's like, I listen to the podcast, dude. Really love what you're doing, the podcast, the music, and I listen to Kingdom Talks and Gil and those guys. And it was really cool, man, to be recognized in a crowd. And, you know, it's a random guy. He's not even from the area. He drove from Gainesville. So shout out to you, my friend. Send me your name if I won't butcher. It's probably not Corey, but I know it's started with a C. It's good to meet you, man. Thank you for the gratitude and the inspiration and stuff too. So yeah, that was a good encounter, man. We had a good time. Some pretty good worship there. It was really good. And let's see, what else? Who was preaching? It was Rodney Howard Brown was preaching on the Holy Ghost and fire. So it was really good, man. We had a good encounter, and it was really interesting too, because the day that we went to this Holy Ghost revival big conference was 19 years ago to the day, September 7th, that I gave my life back to the Lord. September 7th in 2000. So September 7th, it was like my birthday, Christian birthday, of asking God to come back into my life. And it was beautiful that I was able to go there to that conference and celebrate my birthday. Enjoyed it. It's good stuff. So anyway, shout out to you, man. Got a bunch of other stuff I want to talk about, but we'll do it again. I want to save it. I may even go live and talk about this separately, but good stuff. So again, we have the conference coming up this weekend, the Christ Consciousness Conference. If you would like to come down, we're going to go and have dinner. We're going to get into some prayer. We're going to be doing teaching. If you're looking for tribe, community, make sure that you link in with us. If you're not able to make it in person, it's in Mobile, Alabama. We do have options available for the live stream that I'll have. So all of that information is on the website, truthseeker.com. Again, to reiterate, we got some beautiful merch. Just designed these, you know what? And I should have wore that shirt today, because I just got some in, the Sacred Geometry collection of the t-shirts. They look really good. They're like the really good quality, but we have the Sacred Geometry collection. Go to truthseeker.com/shop. And it will forward you to the merch store, which we put out a whole collection. I think it's 4 designs of sacred geometry art and some of the explanations about the symbols and what they mean. So really cool stuff, high quality graphics. If you want to support the movement and look good doing it, make sure you grab you a shirt. But yeah, all of that, my Patreon. Thank you guys for the support. It means the world. Patreon.com/truthseeker. You get access to my entire discography of music, 200 plus songs. Extra interviews, behind the scenes stuff, Thursday night School of the Mystics, Sunday morning Seer class, all of that. Make sure you check it out. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. And it was good hanging out with you guys, not having to worry about what the internet messing up on me. Peace. Love y'all. Later.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the Truth Seeker podcast, head over to truthseeker.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/truthseeker.